This week I learned don't take a vacation ever if you ever want to be caught up at work. Hey, what's up, bookworms? Mike back with another weekly update as we're about halfway through the month of July. I wasn't sure I was going to do another weekly update because I just did one on Monday, which was when I got back from my cruise. But, I feel like I'd like to do this just to try to get it back on the Friday schedule. Because I feel like, say if I delay it to Saturday, the next week, eventually I'm going to have a short week for one of these weekly updates. So I said, hey, I got enough to talk about. I can do this. And it's going to begin with what am I reading, guys? So I did finish Jade War. And it was very, very good. So again, it does start to be like, okay, I do still have a lot of the concerns I had when I reviewed Jade City about some of these things being a little overly long. That I think that's more so in this one than Jade City. Now, I think overall, Jade City was a better book, but I think this one had better moments. This one had like a lot bigger moments and definitely a better ending than Jade City did. But this one also had a lot of lag in it that I think... It's one of those things where if you want her to keep continuing to develop this world and the politics and the economics, because that's a big one in this, then I think you'll be fine. But it's one of those things like I feel like if you took it out, it wouldn't change a ton. But these are things that are helping to build this world. Now, as someone who is a finance major, they don't bother me a ton. But sometimes I'm just like, you had like 5 straight chapters of negotiating GDP and things like that. It's like, I don't know if the average reader is going to enjoy stuff like that. I mean, like I said, I work in it, so it just started to feel like it was work. But it didn't ruin the book for me or anything. So finally is 242 for me at this point. I'm very, very anxious to start Jade Legacy in August because some pretty big shockers in this book as far as character fates, let's put it that way. And I'm curious to see how those resolve or don't resolve in Jade Legacy, a book that pretty much is unanimous amongst people who have read it that it is the best of the 3. So we will find out. So I still would rank it right now, book 1 over book 2. But again, I think book 2 has a lot of what made book 1 great. And like I said, it set up things to have a really, really explosive finale. And I am anxious to do it. I'm enjoying it so much. I did buy that, Jade Setter of Jean Lune, the novella. I bought that on my Kindle. So, yeah, I do enjoy this world enough that I am going to continue, checking out anything that she does in that world, even if she does never do anything else outside of those 3.5 kind of things there. And then, guys, I just continued working on Vinland Saga because I'm going to have lots of that to say about it here in a minute, but with this, I didn't really get that far into it. I didn't take this with me on the ship. So after I finished Jade War, I wasn't ready to start my next book yet. I just kind of wanted to detox a little bit. These you can fly through them really fast. This is the beginning of what is known as the Farmland or the Slave Arc. And as you can see on the cover there, things are a little different than they were in those first 4 volumes. So while I was like, okay, it ain't broke, don't fix it, I do like that it seems like MY, as I've been passionately calling him, is going to make sure that he continues to keep this a character study of Thorfinn and definitely the different stages of his life. So I'm always anxious and curious to see what he's going to do differently because he does seem to understand characters quite well. And I am just here for Thorfinn's journey to see what comes next. I am excited to see how that continues to go through that time period. And that's really all I read this week, guys. Like I said, I did this on Monday. Work was absolutely bananas. When I got back to it, it has been just crazy. And I have just, from the moment I get there until the moment I leave, just been like a complete it's been crazy. It's been a blur, really. And so I got home and it was a struggle for me to even read. So I finally got through about basically the last 200 pages of Jade War yesterday. And then because I kind of want to take a break before I start the next book. But yeah, getting back in the thick of things is going to be a little bit of a struggle. But that leads me, guys, into what am I going to read. I did start Fire and Blood. This is a reread. I did start that this morning. I only read the first section, which is Aegon's Conquest, which is just awesome. By the way, such a great line by Aegon where he says, by the time the sun sets, your line will have ended. Dude, is that the biggest piece of trash talk ever? And spoiler, it does. So yeah, I'm excited to revisit this. Like I said, I think that when I read it last time, I was being quite a curmudgeon because I wanted Winds of Winter and I wasn't enjoying it. This was just another great book. But reading this already, like the first 30 pages, guys, I'm like, man, I have missed this world so much. So it's very exciting to go back there. And if you haven't done this yet, I really do recommend that you guys do it. Yeah, it's not Winds of Winter. Yeah, it's not the series prime. But I think it gives you a lot of context to some of those major world events that some of our characters in the series prime mention a lot. You get some context to some of those things. You get to see how those happen through the eyes of the Maester here. So I recommend that you guys check it out. Just understand that it is a little different. It is like a historical recount by a Maester, and that might not be exactly what you're looking for, but it's never boring. I definitely enjoy it. And if you're planning on to watch, House of the Dragon as I am, I think it would be really awesome to have a lot of the history of these characters before you see them on screen, so you can complain about the changes. I mean, that's why us readers do it, right? Not really, but you know what I mean. I do recommend it. Going to be talking about it with Jordan over at iWizard here pretty soon. That's why I actually moved it up a little bit, because I did tell him I would be a guest on his channel to talk about it, and I want to make sure that I read it again first, so he isn't like, hey, what do you think about this and this? And I'm like, I don't remember, so it's always good to get a nice little refresher in a better state of mind with the world of Westeros, so I'm not less grumpy the whole time. So I'm enjoying myself for the most part. In fact, I'm actually kind of scared it's going to make me enjoy it so much, so I'm just going to want to reread the entire series and then be pissed off again that, After that, guys, I'm actually kind of like torn about this. We've been talking about doing Ship of Theseus, or S, or whatever you want to call it here. This is kind of like the adventure, mystery, thriller version of House of Leaves, at least I've been told, where it's very interactive. There's lots of trinkets and stuff inside that are supposed to help with the immersion of this story. That's why I haven't opened it yet, because I knew I would look at all those trinkets and stuff and ruin stuff, and I don't want to do that. I've waited this. I've had this in the wrap for over a year now. Thing was, I've been talking about doing a read along with this with Tamara on my Discord, on my patrons, and for the last 2 weeks she's kind of disappeared. And I'm like, oh my God, we were about to start this, so Tamara, if you watch this, please come back. I hope you're okay. Please come back, because we've been waiting this long, and it's finally happening, and I would just feel sick if I did it without you. So yeah, I don't have any other feedback to give you guys on this book, except I've heard nothing but great things about it, and I'm excited to do it. But I do hope Tamara does come back, because like I said, if I had to end up doing it without her after we talked about it for this long, I would just feel awful about it. But that's really all I've got on the docket for now, guys. I don't imagine. I mean, Fire and Blood's a thick boy, and Ship of Theseus doesn't look small. So I think that will probably cover me for the next week. Only other thing I got to read this month is Book 2 of Codex Alera, and that will take us into August, which should be a lot of fun. But let's talk about this week on the channel, you guys. I did get up my review for Upgrade. I think that actually posted before I did that update, but I was recording that update at the same time that was posting, because I did record that one before I left my trip, because I wanted to make sure it got up before release day and before that interview that I did with Mr. Crouch. But Upgrade, another fun adventure with Blake Crouch. I might be regurgitating what I said on Monday. I don't remember. Because, guys, when I came back on I came back on Sunday and I recorded that video, like literally I had been home for 20 minutes and said, I want to make sure I get this recorded before I pass out. But with Upgrade, is where I said I don't think it was as good as Dark Matter Recursion, but that's a really high bar, and I don't think that we should really compare it to that. As far as just another techno thriller by Blake Crouch, again, it's awesome. It's another one where you just can't put it down, and you just got to see what happens next. It's literally nonstop action, and that's what makes his books just so fun to read. And the scientific stuff that is presented to everyone about, hey, should we be doing this, is always fascinating. It's what I loved about Michael Crichton for so many years, and I have said, I think that Blake Crouch is the heir apparent to Michael Crichton, and I'm very, very excited to say that. Now, I did mention the interview. I did finally release my Blake Crouch interview. That was recorded 3 months ago, but I still think that the conversation was very prevalent to what is going on. I talked about everything, a lot of questions from you guys that you guys sent over for me to ask him, and he answered them all in a great way. Lots of exciting stuff on the horizon. He's doing an adaptation of Dark Matter for Apple TV, and he is the writer and the showrunner. And in that interview, guys, I asked him, how important was it to stay faithful? And he said very much so, and that the series will be very faithful to the books. I'm excited. He's got Joel Edgerton cast as Jason, so I think it's going to be a great show. I can't wait to watch it. And anything else out there that Blake Crouch does, I'm going to definitely check out. In fact, I still got some of his back catalog to get through, and I do want to keep doing that until I get new stuff. Did my book haul for June of 2022. That's the only one that I really brand new recorded this week because, like I said, work was such a beast when I got back to it. But anytime you can talk about the books that you were sent, that is always an awesome thing. Really got interesting feedback. One of the self-published books that I got by Sebastian Menquez, which is that Purple Prince hardcover with the map and all that stuff. A lot of people wanted to buy it afterwards, and it was only available on Kindle. Well, guys, he did contact me and say you can buy it off of his website. You go to that book haul and you look in the description. I have a link to go to it, and you can actually buy that off his website if you want to. It is very much worth it. And if the book's good, guys, it's just a bonus. The art, the maps, the illustrations, the look of that hardcover is just gorgeous. So if you're just a collector, you don't care about what's inside, I think that you will definitely want to get your hands on that. But yeah, thank you to him for sending that over. But again, thanks to all the people who sent me stuff. And I still am continuing to struggle where to put everything. But that's never going to stop me from collecting. That ain't a problem, baby. I will figure it out. So yeah, more things to add to the home library is always a lot of fun. But outside of that, guys, like I said, work really just kind of whipped me when I got back to it. So I didn't get to do some of those other things, but maybe I can in next week. And that's where we're going to talk about some next week plans here. I will be continuing my First Law reviews. Now, I recorded The Blade itself, basically a re-review, if you will. Or really, it's the first time I've done the First Law trilogy in the standard Mike's Book Reviews review format that I have now. And that got really good reception, so I'm going to continue with that. I am going to be doing Before They Are Hanged, which is book number 2 of that series. And then, of course, Last Argument of Kings will be in August. But I'm excited this time because I feel like when you talk about a book 1, you're really just setting up. You don't want to say too much. You want to say enough to get people interested to read it when you're doing a non-spoiler review, but you can't say too much. But book 2 in a review series, I feel like you can start to actually talk about some of the plot and stuff. So it will be very, very different. And I will talk about why I think these books get better as they go along. And I love The Blade itself, but I do think Before They Are Hanged is better. And I'm going to talk about why. And a big part of it is new characters are introduced, new lands are introduced, and there's lots of things. So I'll probably talk about the characters in particular more in this one. Last one I just talked about, the characters are what makes this story great. This one I'll actually talk a little bit more about the individual characters. You get the introduction to Shivers in this book. You get the introduction to Pharaoh in this book. Nicomo Casca, who's one of my favorites. So lots of things to continue to talk about with the First Law trilogy because, guys, my favorite modern fantasy series. And I'm always willing to talk about it a little more. I'm glad you guys are interested. I do got some stuff coming up with the Brothers Gwyn, you guys. I did talk about that tag. They did tag me in a Build Your Own Warband tag before you left where they give... just check out their video. I'll link it. It's a really cool idea. And they did tag me right before I was leaving. I didn't have time to do it. I told them that I would do it when I get back. And I figured that's a great time because they are going to be my Talk About Nothing guests. On next Saturday, the 23rd, is when I'm going to be talking to them. That'll be live. Since the time difference, I got to have them on a weekend because they are, I think, 7 hours ahead of me here. And asking them to stay up till 1 in the morning to talk to me is probably not very nice. So I figured, hey, we can just do that over a weekend. And I'll pair that up over the week sometime with this warband tag. If I get a chance, guys, again, I've got to imagine I'll be caught up at work probably Tuesday or Wednesday, so maybe I'll have some wiggle room. I'm thinking about because I haven't had any Stephen King content since I did The Wolves of the Calla, so I'm thinking, okay, I got to get a Stephen King video up because I can't go like more than like a month without talking about some Stephen King, right? So I thought about, hey, how about some protagonists? I talked about the villains before. How about some Stephen King protagonists? I always get a lot of people, what are your favorite Stephen King protagonists? So I think I'm going to talk about some of those. I don't have like a number on that or anything. I doubt I'll do 19 again like I did with the villains. But I think I could talk about a top 10 Stephen King protagonists or something like that. That would be something I think that could be a little fun. Until I continue back into the multiverse, reread some things, and can do my part 3 of that ranking that I know people have been waiting for. But hey, I told you guys that was going to take years to complete that list. So I appreciate your patience on those things. That's all I got planned, guys, for next week. Before I go, there are a couple of TV and movie talk things I want to talk about before I go here. Now, they did drop... the first one was a teaser. This is actually... they're calling it trailer number 2, but it's basically the first trailer for Rings of Power, the Lord of the Rings series on Amazon Prime. Had a lot of people ask me what I think about it. Now, before I say anything, guys, I want to say, I want you guys to understand, I'm not one of those channels who just tries to put out negatives. I don't want stuff to fail So I have content. I've never been that channel. I'll never be that channel. So I want you guys to understand, I want all these fantasy series to do well, because that's the only way we'll get some of these other thousands of awesome fantasy series adapted to television or movies, is if these do well. So I want them to do well. I don't want anyone misunderstanding that. I don't have high hopes for the series. And look, this trailer didn't do very much to change my opinion. My same concerns still persist. I still think Galadriel and Elrond are getting character assassinated. That's not the characters that I know. And there are many, many other things that I just don't want to get into, because it's just going to get a lot of people fighting. So I just don't even want to talk about that. Just say, as someone that is their favorite fantasy universe, I'm not happy with a lot of the decisions that the showrunners have made. As far as this trailer, it looks beautiful. The costuming looks better than we've seen. I mean, a lot of the still shots we get in like Entertainment Weekly and stuff, it looks like the CW bad level of costuming, you know? But they look a little better in motion. And look, the show is gorgeous looking. The cinematography looks terrific. And here's what I gotta say, guys. This is the most expensive production of all time. So there's no excuse for anything other than the show to look amazing. The cinematography and everything needs to just be beautiful. It really does. There's no excuse for that after how much money they sank into this. Unfortunately, money can't save writing, and it can't save decisions that they have made with some of the things, and it can't change a lot of the ways that they have attacked the Tolkien fan base. I think that is a really, really dumb move. I've talked about this numerous times with Lucasfilm. When someone comes out and they start attacking the fan base before it's even released, that is the biggest red flag you can get, because it means they're trying to deflect from the product they've made. I hope that is wrong, guys. There was nothing more that I would love than to be wrong, and this series actually turns out to be really, really great. Now, as far as some of the content in the trailer, I'm actually surprised at some of the things we saw. There are some things in that trailer I'm pretty sure are events from the Silmarillion, and they do not have the rights to the Silmarillion. Now, I know they can kind of sneak some things in that might have gotten mentioned in the appendices. They can kind of get away with it that way. My theory is that they're going to have some of those events that happen in the Silmarillion. They are going to change the name of them to try to kind of get the event's going to be the same, but they're going to call it something different. Like, they won't call it the Kinslaying. They'll call it like the Sundering or something like that. They'll call it something different. Kind of how Marvel got away with years with calling Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch, calling them, I forget what they call them, miracles. I think it's because they couldn't say mutants. You know, I think kind of like how they did that. It's the same thing. They're just going to call it something differently. You know, you do see the trees of Valinor, in the 2 trees of Valinor in the trailer and things like that. So I do think there's ways they can get around some of this stuff. But look, it's hope for the best, expect the worst with this series for me. Part of that might be that Wheel of Time really let me down after I went to bat for it at first. You know, and the thing with Wheel of Time in hindsight is that, you know, I expected it to be terrible. It wasn't as bad as I expected at first. It felt like it got better and better those first 4 episodes, and then it just got worse after that. And so that's one of those things in hindsight I can look at and be like, yeah, it was not good, and it doesn't make me have high hopes for Lord of the Rings. But we will see. Basically, what I've said, guys, is if you don't like something, you can not support it by watching. Don't hate watch stuff. I'm done hate watching stuff, guys. That's why I stopped Obi-Wan after episode 3. I'm done hate watching this stuff. If they're taking properties that I consider sacred, how do I speak out as a fan? I'm not the type that's going to make negative videos. I'm not going to get on social media and blast it. What am I going to do? I'm going to not support it. I'm not going to watch it. I'm not going to give it my time and attention. With this, I said I'll give it the first 2 episodes. Now, I know that Prime usually releases 2 or 3 episodes the first week and then does weekly. I don't know what they're doing with this, but I'm saying I'll give it at least 2 episodes for them to sell me that the changes that they made are not just for reasons. You know, they actually have a good reason to do it. It's not just because of certain things, not because of certain ideals, not because of axes to grind or anything. They got to show me that if you're going to do those things, Tolkien's Legendarium is still your major priority. I've got to know this. I've got to believe that you respect the source material and you're not just taking a squat on it and saying, we need to modernize everything. I need to make sure that they are making that a priority. So they've got to sell me on those first 2 episodes. But that's kind of where I'm at. The trailer was better than the first one, but that was a pretty low bar, and I would be really, really scared if that second trailer was not better than the first one. So we shall see, guys. That's the beginning of September. I'm going to be continuing my Lord of the Rings reviews leading up to that release of that show. Before I go, guys, I just want to say, hey, I finally popped my anime cherry. I did finally watch some anime. They just put out Vinland Saga Season 1 on Netflix with the English dubbing. Now, here's the thing. I don't have to have anything dubbed to watch it. And I know a lot of people will actually be like, oh, you got to watch it with Japanese and read the subtitles. I'm watching it with my 10-year-old kid, trying to get him interested in Vikings. Because when I told him about the show, I was telling him about the manga when we were on the cruise, and he was saying, "I'm just not really that interested in Vikings." I'm like, "Are you adopted?" You know, because of how much I love it. So I wanted to watch this with him, and you're 10, you want to listen, you don't want to read your show. So when they said they were putting this out, the English dubbed version on Netflix, I said we would watch it because he will watch just about anything on anime. So we've been watching that together. We only got like 5 episodes left. It's been really great. I gotta say, I'm really impressed with how much they have stuck to the source material. I mean, there's stuff that is just straight out line for line, page for page. There's some panels that are exactly the same as they are in this, and a lot of people tell me that's how it usually is with manga. I'm like, oh, I'm not used to things being adapted faithfully, but there is some fluff in there. I do think that they did do some fluffy things to get it up to 24 episodes, which I think that first arc, just the prologue war arc, you did not need 24 episodes to do that. And the second half of the series has been kind of philosophical with Canute trying to find himself. That really has kind of bored my kid a little bit. He just wants to see Thorkel and Thorfinn fight. He's been waiting for that the entire season, and then it finally gets here, and they fight for 5 seconds, and then it's Canute talking to the priest for 20 minutes. He was quite upset about that. So I try to explain to him about it's building tension, but it's losing him a little bit. But overall, I have thought it was great, and he's really enjoyed it as well. It's still not going to knock off Avatar for him. I don't think anything's going to knock off Avatar or Attack on Titan for him. But we will see how he feels at the end. He is definitely into it, though. He even said, like, he wants 2 knives, like Thorfinn. He wants to go for that as Halloween. I was like, that's a good costume. I like that idea. So maybe you aren't adopted after all. But guys, that was my week. What is your week like? Why don't you go ahead and drop in the comments. Let me know what you're watching, what you're reading, what you're listening to, what you're playing. There are always no wrong answers on this channel, guys. Drop in the comments. Let me know, and have yourselves an awesome weekend.